Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Please subscribe to this channel, share, like, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. Today, we are going to be looking at the functions of diplomatic mission. The functions of diplomatic mission. A diplomat is at times spoken of as the eyes and ears of his government in other countries. His chief functions are to execute the policies of his own country, to protect its interests and its nationals, and to keep his government informed of major developments in the rest of the world. On the other hand, diplomats refer also to all the public servants employed in the diplomatic affairs, whether serving at home or abroad. Strictly speaking, the political head of the ministry is also a diplomat. His functions are that of responsible statesman conducting the affairs of his country with other states. Now, let us look at diplomatic functions. There are many functions performed by a diplomat. Some of these include diplomatic representation, protection of his nationals, exchange of rules on matters of mutual interest, political and parliamentary negotiations, and most importantly, preservation and projection of the national interest of his country generally. The functions of diplomatic missions are spelled out in the Vienna Convention of 1961. Article 3 of the convention states as follows: the functions of a diplomatic mission can consist of the following. 1. Representing the sending state in the receiving state. 2. Protecting in the receiving state the interests of the sending state and its national within the limits as permitted in the international law. 3. Negotiating with the government of receiving state. 4. Ascertaining by all lawful means conditions and developments in receiving state and reporting them to the sending state. 5. Promoting friendly relations between the receiving and sending states and developing cultural, social, and technological relations. So those are just the major functions, of course, of diplomatic mission. Now, let's look at it now. It goes to say that nothing in the present convention shall be misconstrued as preventing the performance of the consular functions by a diplomatic function. Consular functions consist of issuing passport and other traveling documents and acting as a notary public. In the discharge of these functions, the head of mission will be consulted either by permanent members of diplomatic service, especially training by Ministry of Foreign Affairs or other officers, belonging to ministries of government. In addition, in an address before the American-Japan public in Tokyo on November 22, 1938, Joseph Grew, United States ambassador to Japan, observed that the work of a diplomat is a heavy responsibility. He continued to say that he must be first and foremost an interpreter, and his function of interpreting acts both ways. First of all, he tries to understand the country where he serves, its conditions, its mentality, its actions, and its underlying motives, and to explain these things, clearly to his to his own government. And then contrary-wise, he seeks means of making known to the government and the people of the country to which he is accredited the purposes and hopes and desires of his native land. He is an agent of mutual adjustment between the ideas and forces upon which nations act. The work of a diplomat may be broken down into four basic functions. Okay, and they include: number one, representation; two, negotiation; three, reporting; four, the protection of the interest of the nation and of its citizens in foreign lands. These functions, as we shall see, are closely interrelated. So let us take them one after the other and then explain them. Number one is representation. Now, what is representation as a function of a diplomat? Now, a diplomat is a formal representative of a country in a foreign state. It is a normal agent of communication between his own foreign office and that of the state to which he is accredited. In the eyes of many citizens of the country in which he is stationed, it is the country he represents, and that country is judged according to the personal impression he makes. The diplomat must cultivate a wide variety of social contacts with the ranking officials of the foreign office and of the foreign government in general, with his fellow diplomats, with influential persons in all walks of life, and with articulate groups in the country. Social contracts can be enjoyable, stimulating, and profitable. They can also be heard on the, they can also be had on the stomach as well as on the pocket book, trying to the diplomat's patience as well as his intelligence. Whatever else they may be, they seem to be an inescapable adjunct of the important duty of representation. Although these contacts have tended to become less formal, they have at the same time broadened in scope. Ambassador Grew, a career diplomat of long experience, referred to them as the X-ray language, vibrating beneath the surface of the spoken and the written words, which is simply a diplomatic way of saying that trained mixer, observer, auditor can often pick up information or intelligence of great value in or from conversation as social function. Okay? Now, in the course of representing his country, a diplomat equally provides necessary information and advice to foreign policy decision makers, which have helped to shape the direction of foreign policy adopted. This is because such information is based on the spot assessment, experience, and observation. It should be observed that the extent to which such advice and information made available by ambassadors and diplomats abroad are considered and consequently acted upon, is determined by attitude, values, biases, and image of policy makers, as well as the prevailing domestic factors. Number two, negotiation. The second function of a diplomat is negotiation. Now, negotiation is virtually a synonym for diplomacy. Negotiation is par excellence the pursuit of agreement by compromise and direct personal contact. Diplomats are by definition negotiators. As such, they have duties that, as described by Mr. Charles, which include the drafting of wide variety of bilateral and multilateral agreements, embodied in treaties, conventions, protocols, and other documents of political, economic, and social nature. Their subject matter ranges from the creation of the International Security Organization through territorial changes, establishments of rules to govern international civil aviation, shipping and telecommunications, and the adjustment of international commercial relationships such particular matters as immigration, double taxation, waterway rights, tourist travel, and exchange control. Almost the entire gamut of human activities is covered. However, because of the development in communications and increasing resort to multilateral diplomacy, as well as for other reasons, diplomats do not play as great a role in international negotiations as they once did. Most agreements between states are still bilateral and are concluded through negotiation between the foreign offices by the use of ordinary diplomatic channels. But the major international agreements, especially those of multilateral character, are usually negotiated directly by foreign ministers or their special representatives, often at international conferences. Diplomats must above all be good reporters if they have the ability to estimate trends accurately, if they keep an eye out for all useful information, and if they present the essential facts in concise and intelligible form, they may be worth a king's ransom. According to the publication of the United States Department of State on the American Foreign Services, diplomats are expected to observe, analyze, and report on political, social, and economic conditions and trends of significance in country in which they are assigned. Some major subjects of these reports are legislative programs, public opinion, market conditions, trade statistics, finance, production, labor, agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining, natural resources, shipping, freights, charters, legislatures, tariffs, and laws. Diplomats prepare thousands of reports of this sort every year. Protection of interest. Although a diplomat, that is another function, protection of interest. Although a diplomat is expected to get along with the authorities of the state to which he is accredited, that is, he must not be persona non grata to the government of his state. He is also expected at all times to seek to further the best interest of his own country. However selfish this approach may seem to be, it is the bedrock of the practice of diplomacy, while it is assumed that the interest of each state will be so interpreted that they will harmonize with those of the international community. It is not the function of the diplomat to make the interpretation. His duty is to look after the interest of his country as interpreted by policymakers back home and in accordance with treaties, other international agreements, and principles of international law. He also has the more specific duty of attempting to assist and protect businessmen, seamen, and all other nationals of his own country who are living or traveling in the country in which he is stationed, or who happen to have interests there. He seeks to prevent or correct practices which might disseminate or discriminate against the country of its citizens. Thank you very much.